Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video we're going to be covering the first half of control structures, and in this half we're going to be doing the if and switch statements in C++. So the first thing I'll do is I'll show you the structure of an if statement. So the if is dependent on something. It does a test first, which is actually in all cases a Boolean test. So it evaluates something whether it's true or false. And you can test multiple levels. You can have a first if that says if it is false, if it's true, so if x equals true. Otherwise, if x equals false. Otherwise, if there's some impossible value, then you do the last one. This is the basic structure of an if. You have the first if, do something. Otherwise, do something else. Or finally, do the default thing. So if it's nothing that you expect, if it's neither this nor this, then it will go to the else. You can have as many else ifs as you like. Let's take an integer, for example. If we take an integer, and let's take int y, and we're going to make it equal to 20. Okay, and we're going to change the if check. Keep in mind, one important thing you need to know before you if check is the equals function. It is different to the equals. And here's the differences. The first one, the equals, is for comparisons. And the second one is for assignment. So the compiler treats these two things differently. The equals, it will look for a right side and a left side, and will save the right into the left. For comparisons, it will look at the left side, and it'll look at the right side, and it'll check whether they are equal. Go away. It'll check whether they're equal. If they are equal, it returns true in this little statement here. This thing will become true, a Boolean value. That's how it checks things. So in all comparisons, we're going to be using the double equals. All right, so let's put the integer we have into here. So let's say, okay, if y equals 1, we are going to see out y equals 1. Else, if y equals 7, we're going to see out y equals 7. Otherwise, if y does not equal 0, we are going to see out y does not equal 0. And finally, if y is none of these comparisons, then we're going to say y equals 0. So this is just going by logic. The y will have to be 0 if all of these are false. So at the moment y is 20. So what we should do is it should check, it should say if y equals 1, no. Else if y equals 7, no. Else if y does not equal 0, true, goes inside. That's how an if works. So if I run this program, you will see that it will output y does not equal 0. There we go. It went inside that loop. If we make y equal to 1, it'll tell you that it equals 1. Otherwise, let's say we put in 0. It tells you y equals 0. So it comes into this loop because all of these are false. That is how it'll go through. It'll look for false, 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 and if all of these are false, it'll go inside the else and do what's in here. This is for helping control it. A few things to watch out for when you make an if is that you use comparison, not assignment. If you use assignment, it will always be true. Let me show you here. Let's say I change this to y equals 1. This will take 1 and will save it into y. Then this will be true, and it'll go straight in here, regardless of what I... So let's make it 7. Get rid of this. And you'll see it goes in here, y equals 1. Because what this did was it made it equal to, it didn't compare it. So be very careful of that. Use comparison, not assignment. Also, with an if, you have to be careful as to how you arrange this. You have if, else if, else if, else. You can have as many else ifs as you like. It starts with an if. You can't have an else if up here because it'll look for the first if. A useful feature of if functions is also having a standalone if. So if you have y equals 10, let's say you want to watch out for a value that makes y equals 10. You don't want to go through a whole loop and do all this stuff. So we say, okay, if y equals 10 at this point in the program, I want you to make x false. Then I can show you here, x is, and it should show 0 because we made it false now. Only if y is 10. So let's make it true here. Okay? So x is always true unless it gets to this point in the program and y is equal to 10. Then x will become false. So let's make y 7. It goes into the loop, y 7, and then it goes past here and says x equals 1 because x is still true up here. Let's put an equals in there, I missed out. Alright. Now, if I change y to 10, it's going to go into here, say not equal to 0, and it will make x false, and then we should see x equals 0 here. So you can see that by writing out just a simple few ifs, you can test a lot of things in your program. You can keep track of where your variables are, what they equal. You can change little switches like this x. If y is 10 and I don't want something to run in my program, I can say use function x false. Then it will never use function x until you make it true. There's a whole lot of things you can control with an if function. One other thing is the switch function, which is a specialized if, and it has a different syntax, which I'll write out for you now. So it's looking at a certain variable. So switch y, you put the variable inside there. Then you open brackets and close brackets, as you do with all functions. And now we're going to have a bunch of cases. So you do the same if in this one. So we have if the case of the variable being equal to 1. That's what this means. Case 1, if it's equal to 1. Then we're going to say, we're going to copy this, recycle this code. Okay. Then break. Then we are going to have a case 7. Recycle the code and break. The difference between the switches and ifs is only preferential. An if is more versatile in that it can use more variables to check. A switch can only either use integers or characters for comparisons. If you use anything else, it's not going to work. Let's change this if up a bit. So we're going to have 0, and then we'll see out this last one, y equals 0. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to have the default case, which is essentially like writing an else here. We're going to say default. I'm trying to remember the syntax of this one. I don't use switches very often. Yes, okay, so let's put this here. I think that is the syntax. I might be wrong. Okay. There we go. That's what's wrong. Default. Okay, I've got to mess this up. Let's see if that does it. Yes, there we go. So the first loop, y is equal to 10. Goes in, no. Goes in, no. Goes in, yes. Y is not equal to 0. This one, it checks if y is equal to 1. Is it? No, it doesn't go inside here. Is it equal to 7? No. Is it equal to 0? No. Okay, go to the default case. There's nothing left. Therefore, y must be not equal to 0. And it does it for both of the loops. You can see it's the exact same thing, just a different way of writing it. The if keep in mind, if you want to use anything other than integers or characters to test, use an if. So switch is only for integers and characters. That's it for the control structures using if and switch. I'll be back for part 2, which will be the while loop, and the for loop, and the do while loop. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.